You're listening to the Clean Comedy Podcast with your host, James Creviston.
Hey, everybody, it's James from the Clean Comedy Podcast, and this is the last podcast of 2022. And guess what? It's just me this week, you guys. I got up this morning. I was like, this is going to be the last podcast of 2022. I was a little sad, but I had been writing all the things that I had done over 2022 and the things I want to accomplish in 2023, and took some questions from Reddit that people had that I will address in this podcast as well. So if you're ready, like me, for 2022 to be over, kind of, like I'm not 100% ready, but I'm also ready for it to be over and ready to move on to 2023, let's jump into this bad boy. So if you guys have been paying attention to the podcast, I've had a great year of podcasting. This has been one of my favorite years. I got to interview a lot of people that have been on my list. I interviewed Joe Lowers from the World Series of Comedy, Mark Masters, who's a friend of mine already. Anyways, we talked about his Vail Comedy Festival, like the big one, like it was there. Don Friesen, who has been a kind of a mentor and a person that I followed and really wanted to have a career like, and still do. Dwayne Perkins, who is one of the first comedians to ever perform on one of my shows when I started producing shows early on in LA, gave me advice at that show, talked to me. He's just been a great person, always responded to me and stuff. Just amazing guy. James B. Conley, who, when he found out I was a veteran as well, gave me tons of advice for things to join that actually helped me move forward in my writing career, move forward in a lot of places in my life, and just a great guy. Basically like a big brother to me. With the kind that always gives you noogies, or like would give you a wedgie, or like any of those kind of things. Like he's that kind of guy, but it's from that military love background. So it's not like he's a bad person. He's a great guy. Probably one of my favorites. Tom Clark, who I think we addressed this in the podcast. And if you didn't watch that, go back and watch it. But the first time I met Tom Clark, I had met his wife, Stephanie, way before, who I am going to get on the podcast 2023. Don't worry. And I had met her before. She had been on a show of mine. We talked, whatever, we met. But I had never met Tom. And I knew kind of vaguely that they were married. And they live out by where I live. And I saw him in a, like, it's called Do It Center. But it's like a smaller version of like a Home Depot, right? And so then I was like, oh my gosh, are you Tom Clark? And like, it was like that moment. And I already knew who he was. So like, it was probably weird for him to be like, why is some rando dude talking to me? And then I saw his wife, and then she was like, hey, how's it going? And so we knew each other. So it was a really funny thing. And that's how I met Tom Clark. And he laughs because that's something that doesn't happen to you a lot, where some rando, right, comes up to you and is like, hey, are you so-and-so? And like gets hyped. And you're like, I'm just a regular dude, you know what I'm saying? Or at least Tom feels that way. He's not a regular dude at all. Tom Clark's a great guy, very funny. Probably should be like in the top 20 of like comedians. He's an amazing guy. Joe Toplin, who wrote for Late Night, came and talked about writing for Late Night, gave me tips on Twitter back in the day. Super helpful, super kind, super gracious, sent me a bunch of stuff. Like, honestly, that was amazing for me. I think I remember getting off of that call with him, that podcast with him, and just like glowing, right? My wife's like, wow, did it go well? I was like, oh my gosh, it was like the best thing ever. And Joe Toplin like really helped me, and he really like made me step up my writing game too. Like I had to start writing more headlines, and I would go back. I went back to Comedy Wire and started submitting stuff. I haven't been on it as much as I need to, but I'm going to do that, this year and more in 2023, and also work on some satire writing, but that comes up too. And then finally, Randy Lubis. We all know my friend Paul Douglas Moongene, great guy, been on here tons of times. Probably him and David Studebaker are tied for the most. Besides Luke, I guess, who was my co-host, but that doesn't really count the same way. Anyway, so Paul works with Randy Lubis. They're great guys. They teach a lot of people. They guide a lot of comedians and stuff. And Paul introduced me to Randy. Randy liked me. I've been so lucky to work at JR's Comedy Club, both in Simi Valley and in Santa Clarita, working on those shows, thanks to both of those guys of really backing me and pushing me and working with me. And honestly, Randy Lubis, who's like a legend and like everyone knows him in the comedy business, especially if you're in California, or if you do cruises, you totally know who he is as well. a great guy, kind of under the radar, but like hopefully his dry bar special will like propel him some more and you'll see him traveling and doing more stuff. And so that was great. My whole year was just interviewing people, talking to people. I do this every week. Some podcasts, just so you guys know, just so we're all clear and transparent, sometimes I record like 5 podcasts in a week and then edit them. And Luke helps me with thumbnails. He's still around. He just doesn't come on the podcast. Helps me with thumbnails, helps me with getting things prepared and stuff. And we do it, and then I have them all scheduled out because I travel, I have projects I'm working on, I do all kinds of stuff, so I did that. This was also been a great year for my writing. I got close to 6 figures this year. It was great, and it was solely on that, just writing, like not even stand up, not even whatever, just hustling every day, working on writing scripts, blogs, jokes, speeches, all kinds of stuff. So I'm hoping that next year, that 2023 will be my actual 6-figure break where I'm like, it's boom, it's over that 6 figure. I've gotten close, like close. And if you added in all the other stuff that I do, probably there. But writing is what I'm really focusing on. I want to make that the 6-figure thing. So we'll get there. I got to teach comedy all year this year. That was great. I taught teen stand-up. I've been learning improv, so I'm going to teach improv some more. I'm teaching comedy writing and comedy podcasting next year for teens. So next year is a full slate of me teaching and stuff. And I really want to do more of that. I love teaching. I love talking to people about comedy. I love being a nerd. So for me, that's perfect. Let's see. At the end of this year, I filmed a commercial in Las Vegas. Shout out to Laugh My Ads Off and Kristen Morelli, who's freaking awesome. She has a great ad agency. I work with her. I help write scripts with her. But I helped write this script, pitch the ideas. We worked together on it. And then I went out there and I played their dog. The video hopefully will be coming out either by the end of the year or the beginning of 2023. That was a fun day. We did a lot of improv stuff there too. Just an amazing time. Probably one of the best weekends. It was just amazing and great people to work with. Everyone on that crew, fantastic. If they don't take over the comedy marketing stuff, if they're not making, they're the next Harmon Brothers. They literally are. And I'm not saying that because I work with them and I write for them or whatever. I'm saying it because their professionalism, the way that they shoot, the way that they handle things, the way they plan things, they're just above the rest. And it's amazing. And it's a small company, and they're doing things that big companies struggle with, even though they have the resources of people and whatever. These guys are doing it, so it's amazing there. I managed and produced 30 episodes of another comedy podcast. It was a kind of a news comedy podcast. I didn't promote it here. I don't ever promote any of those outside projects. That's not what I do. So if you want me to work on a podcast with you or work on a project with you, just know that I'm probably not going to promote it until we see the fruits of the labor, just because I want it to work on its own merits and not off my back, right? That's what I don't want. I don't want people to go, oh, James did this, so we'll go check it out. Not that there's probably people doing that, but you never know. So I produced and wrote and worked on 30 episodes of this other podcast. They ended up not getting the funding they needed to keep moving everything forward because it was a website and all this other stuff. And so they kind of slowed it down. So it might come back next in 2023. It'd be great if it did. I really had to work every week writing and working on satire and working on all this stuff. It was great. It actually led me to meeting Adam Yenser, who Adam Yenser now is going to be on a podcast in 2023. So, there's so many podcasts coming, guys. It's insane. And then let's see, this podcast, the Clean Comedy Podcast, made it to the top 20 of stand-up podcast on Apple iTunes chart, on the Apple podcast charts. Do you know how big of a deal that is? I'm competing against, I'm going to just go look at it just so you guys, so we can do it in real time. But just so you guys know where this podcast is in relation to other podcasts, we'll go to my stuff, to so my profile, whatever. I'm using Chartable, my dashboard, sorry. And Chartable tracks all of this stuff. I also use Listen Notes if you guys have ever heard me talk about that. But right now the podcast is sitting at number 21 on the Apple Podcast charts for stand-up, United States of America stand-up. So if we go to charts and we just go to who the number one stand-up podcast on the charts, it's the Andrew Santino and Bobby Lee podcast, Bad Friends. That's number one, right? And then you start to move down with Lewis Black Rantcast, Kathleen Madigan, Greg Fitzsimmons, let's see, Leo and Danny Mullen, which they're funny, and I really like them. Steve Trevino, and then me. I'm number 21. That's how much you guys love this. I would love to be in the top 10, right? But there's a lot of big money ad stuff there getting pushed. that I can't compete with financially, which I know that I'm not saying that their stuff isn't good. I'm saying there's also a lot of money behind it that also pushes that and pushes it out and promotes it and stuff. So, and also I want to say Laugh After Dark stand up is awesome. That's Charlie Murphy. He was on Charlie Wilson. Sorry. That's Charlie Wilson. I don't know why I always say Charlie Murphy. Then Charlie Wilson. He's that good, right? He makes me think of that. Charlie Wilson and his show, Laugh After Dark. He's number 14 right now. Their Laugh After Dark show, the one that's also shot in Las Vegas and is on Amazon, is number 14. So I'm very happy to see friends of mine there. I know that also couple friends, which is Jenna Kim Jones. She's been on the podcast before. Is high on there. She's 27. We go back and forth. And then there's the Comedy Store podcast. That's number 40. We're ahead of that right now, which is awesome. I'm a Bass Hole with Doug Bass is a show that's filmed out here. My friend E.L. Smith was just on that podcast or on this live show. I think it'll probably be on the podcast. And then I know it's here because I keep seeing it. Where is Joel Byers at? Joel Byers we're usually riding the same Hot Breath. Right now it's number 88, but we go back and forth on there as well. And then a lot of times there's a lot of that stuff. So I'm grateful to you guys. Number 20 on the Apple podcast stand-up chart. That, to me, thank you. Thank you, every single one of you that listens to this podcast. Please share with more people. Please share with more people that want to do stand-up, that are interested in stand-up, that want to see behind the curtain, the magic of stand-up, so to speak. Please share with them. Now, podcast, like, if you guys could also join on YouTube so we could get to 1,000 subscribers, that'd be awesome. So if you're not subscribed on YouTube, just go subscribe. Just go over there, subscribe. You don't even have to watch all the episodes. Just go subscribe, please. It would help me so much. All right, so what am I looking forward to in 2023? Well, that's good. David Studebaker now is Dry Bar Special. If you watched the episode before this or what's the episode before this, David and I talk about it, and we talk about what we want to do. We have a plan. We did a planning meeting pretty much right after that podcast to start planning to go out to clubs. So if you're a club, you're a booker, you're a comedian, or whatever that knows clean shows, please reach out to me. We want to plan that. We want to be all over the place. We want to also try to help out local comedians while we're out there. We're also going to be doing the podcast from those venues when we go do it. So we'll do it from the green room or wherever, and have those venues on so we can kind of show people there are clean venues out there that produce clean comedy as well. So that's one. I plan on trying to get to the World Series of Comedy. Am I going to, and by the way, I'm also going to have John Wynn, who did win the World Series of Comedy, come on the podcast pretty soon as well. Am I going to win the World Series of Comedy? No, you guys, not at all. Not even close. I've seen the caliber of comedians there. They're fantastic. That's not who I am. Even Jeff Shaw, who has been a great mentor to me, a great friend to me, said, don't go in it thinking you're going to win. Go into it thinking this is an opportunity to network and get to meet other comedians, which is exactly what I always try to do. Even when I did my very first comedy competition, the Queen Comedy Competition, seriously, I wasn't expecting to win. I wasn't even expecting to be in the top of anything. I did well there. I made a lot of friends. It was just been great. Again, teaching more classes, what I want to do. I want to take on more writing gigs this year. I'd like to do more satire writing. My dream, I know some of you may not be for this, I always wanted to write in The Onion. The Onion is very difficult and probably impossible for me to get into now. There's so many good people. But, and also they don't allow outside submissions or whatever. But I'm also a big fan of the Babylon Bee. I love what they do. I love satire writing. It's one thing that I honestly love. They're one of the best. Besides The Onion, the Babylon Bee is probably the next best. Those two are neck and neck, honestly. Some of the best satire writing there is. I've been working on my satire writing. I've been trying to do one satire thing a day. I might end up just putting it on a website and starting something like that. I don't know. So I want to do that. And then I also want to do more one-on-one coaching. I had people reach out to me about one-on-one coaching. I've kind of resisted and pushed back against it because I'm not I don't have a special. I don't have an album. I don't have anything. I have this podcast. I do a lot of writing. I make my own stuff, but I would love to help people because I do like to write jokes. I know how jokes work. I'm good at structuring them. I'm good at helping people see things and finding out what their strengths and weaknesses are. So if you want to do some one-on-one coaching, I'm 100% open to that. Please hit me up. I would love to do it. We could do, one session at a time, span it out for months, whatever you want to do, we can make it happen and stuff. So I'm very open to that. And then this year, I'm also looking for a literary manager. I have a lot of scripts and screenplays I've been working on. I worked on a ton of other people's stuff. I've had stuff produced. I just need to get that hurdle. And I haven't really, here's the truth. I haven't done anything with it. I have all these things and I just kind of put them on the back. Like, I'll get to it. This is the year I'm going to focus on that. Focus on Lit Manager. That's why I want to write more and do more stuff and whatever. And like I said, I want to write more satire and possibly even a comedy newsletter through like Substack or something like that, where I could like do funny things or write funny things. And I've also thought about actually expanding this podcast, and I think I put it on the Queen Comedy Podcast Patreon thing. So if you guys haven't seen it, I think I did put it somewhere there, where I asked, what about adding, like a monologue here and a thing and whatever and stuff like that. And I don't know if anybody did it. Let's see. I didn't even go look. Anyways, so I want to go there and look at those things and see about maybe adding a monologue, adding something funny, adding sketches, adding whatever, silly things to this podcast. I don't know if I'm going to. I might do it and call it the Queen Comedy Hour and then make it just like a whole different show. That's like a funny thing where I can like do that, and then I could throw some of the interviews into there as well, like a kind of like a Johnny Carson type thing or whatever. So those are what my ideas. Now, I'm gonna take some. This is the Q&A section. Who wants to call in? No. So I'm going to take a couple questions that were actually asked from Sean Comedy 24 on Reddit to me about the podcast and what I could do. So he had this. He says, you may have covered this in the past podcast because I've only listened to the latest few, but the things on my mind are, how does one make a leap in performance-wise from featuring to a headliner? For instance, I've got a solid 15 to 20 now, and I'm always working new stuff, but getting up to 45 to an hour still feels like a leap. All right. So as a person who features and hosts more than anything, headlining is hard depending on where you live. If you live in LA, New York, Chicago, Austin right now, Austin is a big one, and Boston probably, it might be hard for you to headline. Now, if you're constantly doing great, tight 15 and 20-minute sets, you need to make sure you have 3 great, tight 15 to 20-minute sets. When you have 3 that then you can wield together, and then you can also take pieces of it and mix and match, then you're ready to go to headline. Now, the hard part is going to be the stage time, right? This is where setting up your own show is the best way to go. If you start running a weekly or monthly show, you can give yourself more stage time, and you can co-headline with a bigger name. So you can bring in someone bigger than you, that's going to be a draw, and you co-headline doing 30, 45 minutes, and they do 30, 45 minutes, something like that. I would recommend, if you're going to co-headline like that, 30, 30 or 30, 45 or 30, 35, something like that, so that the co-headliner, the whatever person, gets a little more stage time than you. So 30, 40 maybe might be a good one, and then everyone else 5, 10, whatever, 15, something like that. And you can do that. Or 10, 10 or 10, 15, 30, 35, 30, 40, whatever it is. That would be my recommendation. In LA, in New York, in Chicago, again, doing your own set, doing your own show is going to be the best way to go. Now, if you do your own show, I recommend this way of doing it, of hosting, aka headlining. So what you're doing is Camille Nanjiani, and they used to do like the Nerd Melt podcast or the Nerdcast or all that stuff, and they co-hosted. I think it was like Kamel and Jonah or whatever, and they would co-host together, and so they could do funny things together. So they kind of like headlined or co-headlined or whatever. That might be what you want to do. It's harder to do. Find another headliner that you know who goes on the road and ask if they're looking for a feature, or if you could book them a gig where they could headline and you could feature. That's a good way to go. I've done that before with people. Those are the big parts there. It gets harder because a lot of people want to headline sometimes before they're ready. That's why I never headline. That's why I don't want to headline yet. I know that. Do I have good material? You can ask anybody. I'm funny. I do great at shows. I have great material, but I'm not ready to headline yet. I know this 100%. If someone asks me to headline, I go, no, I'm sorry. I'll feature all day long. Feature, I'll MC, I'll open, whatever. I'm not ready to headline that. It's a hard spot. Featuring is a fun spot. You can do a lot in a feature spot. But yeah, that's what it is. It takes time. You're going to have to build those up and make sure that all those things are really actually tight. Solid is good. Tight is best. All right. Next question he has is, what are the roles of managers of agents? Where do you find them? A lot of great comic interviews seem to skate over this part. Like, I did JFL, I got a manager from that. And I'm like, how? And the big way that it works is managers will find you when you're ready. I know that's not the question you want, and I know that's not the answer you wanted. Nobody wants an answer. Believe me, the guy who does so much and has no manager, does it all on his own, would love a manager. I would love someone to help me. I spoke to Barry Katz. One of his things was be undeniably great. You have to be undeniable. So when you're ready, when your stuff is going viral, when people are posting, when people see your stuff, that's when you're going to get a manager or an agent. Now, manager is the one that directs your path. An agent will get you bookings and stuff. And there's all different kinds. For stand-up, there's like college agents, there's cruise ship agents, there's all those kinds of things. They're the ones that do the money stuff. Managers direct your path. They're going to manage your career, what you should be doing, how, projects you could take on, those kind of things that you kind of work together and stuff. And then he also says you're slightly in a unique case because you're living abroad for your military partners, for your partner's military service. But now, here's the thing: if you're overseas, if you're in Europe, I don't know exactly where you're at. I'm sorry. If you're in Europe, my thing would say go to some of the big festivals there. Fringe is one of the big ones. You could produce your own show, then you could headline there. You have to invest your time and money and energy into it, but I've heard good things from a lot of people about it, and that's a way to go. We have some things that we're trying to work on in England. I don't want to say it too much here, but I'm hoping that we could do a Fringe Festival show there if we get this thing going. So that would be my recommendation. If you're in a place where you could possibly even start a scene or a show over there, it'd be great. If there's a lot of English speakers and you're planning to come to America, maybe do something for that. And it sounds like if you're supporting your partner's military service, there may be a lot of American military people, maybe even British or whatever military people in the area. You could do a show for them, on the nights that that they're off or that their biggest amount of them are out off base, comedy for the troops or, something like that, whatever you want to call it. So there you go. That would be my recommendation. It's a lot of it, again, comes down to right place, right time, being ready, being prepared. Since it sounds like you're working on those things, you're good to go. It's going to be harder for you to get a manager or an agent while you're overseas, especially if you wanted it for American stuff. But when you get back here, if you're releasing stuff on TikTok, Instagram, those things, YouTube, it's going viral, your odds are better. I mean, look what happened. Dane Cook used MySpace. Bo Burnham used YouTube. I mean, so many people. So you can do a lot of stuff like that. That would be my recommendation to you. I hope that helps answer your question. I also do have an episode where I interviewed some agents and managers on my YouTube. I think it's called like How to Get an Agent or Manager or something like that. Let me go look at the title for you so that I know for sure when I say it. But I've interviewed agents and managers who could be very helpful in that kind of situation and stuff. And how to get a comedy agent. And that's a comedypreneur show. It's right there on the top on my YouTube. You can go look at that as well. And I interview some people and stuff about that. So there's a lot of stuff out there. JFL is a big one, but you have to get called for it or whatever. There's a lot of little things that people don't tell you and that you kind of learn as you go. Like, I know all the ins and outs of what Dry Bar is looking for because so many of my friends have done Dry Bar and have told me, hey, they want this, hey, they want that, hey, don't like this, hey, they don't like that, whatever it is. So I know Dry Bar or what they're looking for because of all my friends who've done it before me. So I'm lucky in that instance, and that's why I try to share with you guys too, and have them share with you as well. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please, if you have any questions, shoot them over. Be happy to answer them for you. I'm totally looking forward to doing more stuff for you this year. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great end of the year 2022 and a happy new year in 2023. So many cool podcasts are coming. I have a couple of great people. I can't say everybody that I have, but just know the history of stand-up. If you've ever listened to that podcast, someone from there is going to be on this podcast too. So I'm getting very hyped and very excited. I can't wait. Hope you guys have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.